Hey, Shalom, Kalalal, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai. All praises, glory, and honor do unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS that do rule well and that do teach well, that have taught me this truth. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom unto the hopeful elect. A son of Zion, coming back at you with another video. Lord willing, will be edifying today. The date is August 3rd, 2025. So, I just wanted to bring out this article from ZeroHedge.com. Link will be in the description. And it says, these are the biggest wartime buyers of Russian fossil fuels, which this reminds me of the precept in Isaiah 9 and 5. You know how it goes along the lines of saying burning and fuel of fire. And that's how the next war is going to be fought, through burning and fuel of fire, which is that World War III. And that's going into nuclear missiles, destructions, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. So this is letting you know the major buyers and the countries that are dependent on Russian fossil fuels. And we know that fossil fuels are used to build ICBMs, right? So let's take a look. It says China followed by India have been the two biggest wartime buyers of Russian fossil fuels, here defined as any oil, coal, or gas purchase after January 1st, 2023. And yes, you know, it's for economic reasons, obviously, and trade reasons. That's why they're buying fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are not just used to make weapons. You know, it's for your economy as well. A lot of things need oil, coal, and gas to function, especially these big corporations, factories, and things of that nature. All the cars that the civilians use, it needs oil and it needs gas, right? So yes, it's for economic reasons, but yes, it's going to be for war as well. But you know what, before I go on, let me get a precept. This is Isaiah chapter 9 verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Because that's how they did it back then. That's how they approach each other on the battlefield. The two nations going head to head. They did a face-off, and then they did their war cries, and then they charged to battle, man. Swinging swords, slashing each other, guts and puke flying all over the place. And yes, it was confusing. There was a lot of a confused noise because everybody's yelling, and really them yelling and raising their voices is because they were actually scared. Right? When you go into ancient warfare or medieval warfare, when you look at these historians, they bring out that information that a lot of the warriors battling on the battlefield were actually scared for their lives, and that's why they were yelling like that. But it says, in garments rolled in blood, by this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And that's to come in that World War III. It's going to be burning and fuel of fire, because this war is going to be done by pushing buttons, and them buttons are going to let them nukes loose, them ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and that's found in the scriptures, right? There's many precepts and scriptures going into nuclear destruction, especially in the Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, goes into that specifically. So let's go back here. So it says, China followed by India have been the two biggest wartime buyers of Russian fossil fuels, here defined as any oil, coal, or gas purchase after January 1st, 2023. There you go. So it's listing them China, right? So obviously China, oil, then you got coal, and then you got gas. So they're the biggest buyer. They're dependent on Russian fossil fuels. Then you have India, then you got Turkey, you got the EU, and then you got the Brazil, right? South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, and etc., right? So you notice that a majority of these nations, they're from the BRICS, right? The BRICS. So they're in an alliance with Russia. So it makes sense they're going to trade with each other. But Turkey is unique because Turkey, you know, that relationship between them and Russia is very complex. Even though Turkey is a NATO member, it still maintains significant economic and energy ties with Russia. So they have a partnership going on, right? But also we know that Turkey and its leader, I think his name is Erdogan, if I pronounce his name right, if I can't really pronounce his name yet, Erdogan, he actually came out in the past and said that they don't really care about being a part of NATO. They actually don't need NATO. So their mindset is not really to be a part of NATO. They're just doing that because it benefits their economy, but they don't really care about NATO. So it makes sense that they're still doing trade with Russia, even though Russia is not a part of NATO. Right? So that relationship is complex. But when you go into Ezekiel 38 chapter, it talks about Gomar and Togomar. That represents Turkey today. Right? So yes, in the spirit and through biblical prophecy, Turkey and Russia are going to be very close. So it's not a coincidence that they're third when it comes to being dependent on Russian fossil fuels. Now it says here Turkey was the third biggest buyer, while the European Union came fourth. The economic bloc has attempted to wean itself off its dependency on Russian fossil fuels, but has struggled to do so after 2022, especially when it comes to the natural gas. Timelines published by CREA show that EU reductions in purchases were significant during the first year after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but have struggled to make meaningful progress since. At the same time, China, India, and Turkey upped their buying in 2022 as Russian oil could be had at reduced rates. Especially fossil fuels flows to India rose by a lot during that year, while Turkish purchases also soared recently. The biggest EU buyers were Hungary, Slovakia, France, and Belgium. And France, I believe France has nuclear capabilities as well. And France is going to take part in destroying America too. And that fuel that they're getting from Russia is going to play a big role in fueling them ICBMs. I'm just saying, man, because the scripture says the beast shall turn against the whore. The beast and the 10 horns will turn against the whore. Yeah, the beast hates the whore, man. And we know that France is a part of the beast. I believe they're one of the founding members of I think it's the 12 founding members of NATO. I believe so. So yeah, that's a part of that beast, and that beast is gonna destroy the whore, man. That's found in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. So it says, as Verono reports, many rounds of sanctions were not enough to diminish Russian fossil fuel revenues due to a mix of global dependency on the major energy exporter and opportunism by non-aligned nations. After different types of sanctions have been tried out by Western alliances to curb Russia's export income, often unsuccessful, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham on Sunday said that steep tariffs could be another option to pressure countries to abstain from buying Russian oil. On Sunday, the lawmaker from the state of South Carolina said on Fox News, directed towards India, China, and Brazil, we're going to crush your economy. Hey, and when you say things like that, that means you're waging war upon them. If you try to take another nation's ability, their ability away from them to provide for themselves, hey, that's war, right? So that's not looking too good for the United States. That's just adding more hate towards the whore and the beast, right? So these other nations, man, they're going to be happy in that day when it comes to shooting their missiles off on America. So it says U.S. President Donald Trump had already mentioned this scenario last week on the occasion of a visit by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, saying that secondary tariffs of 100% will come into effect for countries trading with Russia if no peace deal was reached within 50 days with Ukraine. So there you go, man. Now let's get precept real quickly, and we're going to get to the point. So we're going to start at Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 4. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling sword. Yeah. And hey, they want to go back into that old USSR spirit of them having power, right? Them having power and being strong, right? Being strong, and it's true. They have horses and horsemen They have a big army, and they have a strong army. They have ICBMs, they have special forces, and they're really good with the sword. And that makes sense because they're Edomites too. They're Edomites over there in the east, and we know Esau was blessed with the sword. You know, Russia can tear shit up too. Russia's very powerful. Russia's very strong, very, very strong. Right, so, you know, they used to be that communist empire, but it fell, I believe, back in 1991. But then after, I believe certain presidents came, I think it was either Yeltsin, or Gorbachev, they came in and they did some reforms, economic reforms and social reforms. You know, like I think it was called Perestroika and Glasnost. Perestroika was restructuring of their economy. They started to open up their markets to the whole world because they had to compete with the United States. Because the United States, they opened up their market to the whole world and they were getting stronger and stronger. So yeah, they had to do the same in order for their economy and their nation to grow, right? So that's why Russia is where it's at right now today. That's why they have all these trade alliances going on, right? So yeah, but anyways, man, verse 5, it says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? So this is going also into the BRICS nations, because you got Iran, you got Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a part of the BRICS, and Libya, all of them with shield and helmet. Yeah, and they're partnered up with Russia. Also, verse 6, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togmar of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. And Gomer and the house of Togarmah represents Turkey, right? Turkey, man. Also, don't forget China. China is a part of the BRICS too. And also Brazil. So this is going into Russia's allies. So Russia's allies, you know, a lot of them, they have nuclear capabilities, especially China. And they're going to use them nukes to shoot on the United States. So, you know, this just goes back to my main point with burning and fuel of fire. And we're seeing it. You know, the Lord has set up the stage for nuclear warfare. You know, these nations, the BRICS nations, they're dependent on that fuel, them fossil fuels. Them same fossil fuels are going to be used to fuel up them ICBMs, and they're going to be shot off from one continent to the other. So anyways, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. That's true. And you know who's responsible for that? Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has a wicked jump shot, man. The Lord's got game. He don't miss. Nothing but nylon, man. And I'm going to keep saying that. When the Lord wants something done, he's going to get it done. Now, let me get a precept. This is Hebrews chapter 1, verse 7. And it says, And the angels, he saith, who maketh his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire. That's right. And them angels that are working for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai are going to be in them missiles, man. And they're going to be guiding them to their targets. And they ain't going to miss. They ain't going to miss, man. Okay, and that's called game. That's called 3-point shots. Okay, from downtown. Okay, the Lord does not miss spiritually. He's always on point. So them angels are going to have a part in destroying this place too. And that's why they will not miss. So it says, when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. That's right. And that's why they call it an ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. Now, in order for that to happen, you got to use rocket fuel, because these ICBMs and hypersonic missiles, they're traveling at Mach speeds. The only thing that can propel a device like that is rocket fuel, right? There's no other way to do that. You have to use rocket fuel. So when we go into the proof here, wartime buyers of Russian fossil fuels, fossil fuels are responsible for projecting the ICBMs. All right, so anyways, verse 14, behold, the plagues are set and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be set upon earth shall not return again. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? See? There you go. And a normal bow and arrow cannot do this. So obviously it's talking about ICBMs, missiles, right? And Prophet Ezra is just using the terminology of his time. He's not gonna write ICBMs because those things didn't exist back then. So he's just using the terminology on what he sees fit. Because back then they used bow and arrow. So he's like, okay, it kind of looks like an arrow and it's flying in the sky. That's how an arrow looks. So I'm gonna title it that way. I'm gonna say things. I'm gonna say it that way. I'm gonna title it that way. I'm gonna call it an arrow because it looks like one. So it's not gonna say ICBMs in the Bible. You see, this is where the Lord has to be working with you. This is where inspiration kicks in. This is the Lord opening up your sixth part of understanding, decalcifying your pineal gland for you to figure things out, right? And they're not going to teach you things like this in the ordinary Christian church. Christian church ain't going to teach you anything. The Mormons ain't going to teach you this. They don't go into prophecy, man. They go into singing and singing songs and being stupid. It's just all about flamboyant coonery when you go into black church. The modern day black church is all about flamboyant coonery and doing stupidness, man. Alright, so anyways, man, this is Malachi chapter 4 verse 1. For behold, the day cometh, thou shalt burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahshai of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. There you go. And what's going to do that? What's going to burn as an oven? Them fossil fuels, man, that are in them nukes, right? And that destruction. Okay, that destruction. But what's going to be responsible for that? For shooting them missiles off? It's fossil fuels. Right? And then that's how it's going to burn as an oven, through that nuclear destruction, that destroying wind. And it's going to destroy the proud, man, and all those that do wickedly. That includes the so-called white man, the other nations, and the 2/3, man. Because you 2/3 are wicked, and you're proud. You guys just finished celebrating Caravana. Hey, you deserve to get burnt up. You wicked ass tribes, man. You wicked ass tribes. You wicked heathens too. And by the way, man, going into Caravana originally was for you so-called blacks, man. You West Indians, you Benjamites. This is a new thing where these nations, they're getting involved in it. Before, when it first started, because I know the history of it, that was to celebrate you Benjamites coming out of slavery, man, because you didn't have shit. You didn't have shit. That's why you made the steel pan. That's why you made all these instruments. You made all these decorative costumes, which shows you're the former of all things. But then the heathens got involved. And now, even today in Toronto, you Benjamites, you don't even own Caravana. Scotiabank does. So the heathens took that over, man. Which shows you tribes, you don't got shit. Even in your own wickedness and folly, you don't even own shit, man. And that's why you're going to be destroyed, man. That's why it says the proud and those that do wickedly. What does the scripture say about pride, man? Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before fall. Hey, the Lord, he resisteth the proud, man. So you're going to get destroyed, a lot of you jakes. Anyways, man, hope this was edifying. Till next time, just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahshai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS that do Ruban, that do teach one, have taught me this truth. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom unto the hopeful ex. Kwame Shalom, Baba Ball, Shalom. Son of Zion signing out.